Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all good? I hope so. Y'all listen, let's get into this recap of The Rip. It came on Netflix. It stars Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Did y'all watch it? Get down in the comments, let me know. Okay, so let's get into it. So it opens up with this lady. She's on the phone with somebody. She gets out of her car. Somebody start blasting at her, right? So her name is Jackie. She's the police captain. So these two dudes, they ended up taking her out. They were in all black. They were wearing ski masks. Now, before they finished the job, she was able to send a text message before she threw her phone in the lake. Then one of the guys stood over her and, he took her out. So over at the station, Lieutenant Dane, played by Matt Damon, was being questioned by an agent. They were trying to figure out what would make somebody want to do something like that to Jackie. Did she know something? Did she receive some type of intel? Like what? And Dane says that she might have had some info on some money, like a large amount. So in another room, the FBI agents they question the whole tactical narcotics team because they feel like there's some dirty work going on in-house. So Sergeant JD, played by Ben Affleck, he doesn't appreciate those accusations. So he basically gives the agents a hard time. Now mind you, Dale, one of the FBI agents, is his brother. So to get under JD's skin, Dale brings up that Dane has the position that JD wanted, but JD feels like Dane deserved it, especially after everything that he's been going through in his life with his son and his wife. And after that didn't work, Dale decides to bring up JD and Jackie being in a relationship, and he says that she might have been corrupt. JD don't like that. He don't like it not one bit. So he jump on Dale. The team runs in, they break it up. He go to the restroom to cool off, and then Dane comes in to talk to him. They feel like the FBI is just fishing for answers because they don't have any. So the team was just hanging out in the dock behind the station. But Dane, he's still in the building, and he looks at this text message about a cartel stash in a house in Hialeah. I think that's how you say it. And in the message, there are $3 signs, but no specific amount. Keep that in mind. So in the parking lot, Mateo, he a DEA agent, he pulls up. He's just chatting it up with the team, and he tells them stop parking in their parking lot. Then Dane comes out and tells them about the cash bus. He tells Lolo to bring their money dog. Numa wanted to know how much we talking, and Dane tells her $250K. As he was walking to the car, Mike runs after him to ask why don't they just pass the bus on to the local PD, and Dane says because he doesn't trust them. So Mike wanted to know how much was the bus, and Dane tells him $150K. So they head on over to the house. JD doesn't feel good about it because the warrant isn't signed by a judge, and Dane, he ain't too worried about it. He said, look, I'll find the loophole. So Lolo, she approaches the door with the money dog, and it's a hit. And she feel like it gotta be a big hit because the dog going crazy. So she asked Dane how much is it, and he told her $75K. So they knock on the gate, and this lady named Desi comes to the door. Dane tells her about the Crime Stopper tip, and he asked her if she was there by herself. Dane tells her that they have to enter the premises. She wants to know if they have a warrant. He says yes, but he told her that it wasn't signed by a judge. So she was like, no, I don't think we're gonna make that happen. So they tell her that she just have to sign the denial form, and they'll go back and get the proper documents. She feels like something is up with them, but JD was able to convince her that they were the good guys. So she signs the papers, and everybody walk in, and in that moment you could see it on her face that she feel like she made a mistake. So they go in, the dog hits, and Desi tells them that she doesn't have any street pharmaceuticals, and that's when they tell her that the dog, he trained to find money, not drugs. So now Desi is really looking like she done messed up. So they pull down the attic stairs. When they go up there, it's empty, it's spotless, nothing but drywall and a statue. Then JD sees a cord hanging out of the wall, so he starts pulling on it, and there was a trap door that opened partially, and they see some buckets. So they call down to Mike and Numa to bring the sledgehammers because they have to see how many containers was behind that wall. So then Dane and JD, they go down, they ask Desi some questions, but she tells them again that she does not know what's in that attic. JD says that he saw the look on her face when they mentioned that there was some money up there. Now, as they were talking, Mike and Numa called them to see, hey, come up here, let me show you what we found. There were several buckets in the wall. They opened one, and one of the stashes inside the bucket had $150K written on it. So Dane, he was like, okay, so that's about $1.4 million in one bucket. JD looks in the wall, he counts the buckets. It's about 14 of them. And he says, all right, that's going to be at least 20 mil. With all of that money in that wall and the team never hitting a rip that big before, Dane told everybody to go downstairs and to hand over their phones, because with that amount of money on hand, sometimes it'll make folks lose their senses. So they even took Desi's phone too. JD, he couldn't believe Dane was taking their phones, as if he didn't trust them. But he didn't take JD's phone. So Dane was like, I ain't got time for you being all up in your feelings. I need to think this thing through. So JD wanted to know, when the tip was sent over, how much did it say was here? Dane said $300K. So they go downstairs and tell the others that they need to start counting the money. The rule is to always count the money on site. But JD feels like, nah, we need to move it because that's a large amount of money. But Dane knows if the count is off even by $1, the IA, they will have their tails, because they don't play about their money. Now JD wants to call the major, and he also said that Jackie told him about a huge amount of money that was said to be in that area. Dane feels like calling the major is unnecessary. JD doesn't think so. He feels like they need to call somebody at least for backup. Dane gets frustrated, and he reminds JD that this is his scene and he'll run it the way he sees fit. Now, while they're arguing, Desi tells them that they are making a mistake and that they should just take however much they want and get up out of there, because things just might get ugly. It might get a little sticky up in here. Then Mike comes down from the attic and lets them know that Blue is approaching. So JD and Dane, they go outside to see what's up. And as they were talking to the patrolman, JD recognized one of them from one of the corrupt VCA teams. After that, the two officers pull away. They don't think that the officers knew anything about the money, because if they did, they feel like they would have took them out on the spot. But to be on the safe side, they decide to gear up. So Lolo and Numa, they started putting the buckets in the garage. Mike doesn't understand why, especially since they hadn't talked to the major yet. Now the garage is filled with all types of stuff: bottles, crates, a ton of phone books, and even an old station wagon. Mike gets up and tells them that they need to try and move the car in front of the door, just in case somebody pulls up and want to start blasting. At least they'll have something to shield them until they can, get to a safer area. Dane and JD walk in. Dane says if a stash already has an amount on it, they were just going to go with that. But anything not labeled has to be counted. So they send Mike out to check for anybody pulling up, anybody looking suspicious. But while he's out there, he pulls out a secret phone and sends a text message to someone that says, jackpot. He put $3 signs. Not calling command, might be dirty. In the house, Dane started asking Desi some questions, and she says that a lot of people came in and out of the house. She didn't ask no questions. The reason that she was there is because her and her sister got into it. That's her grandma's house. So he asked her, why did she tell them to just take what they wanted and leave? She said the person who called the phone told her to say that. So Dane searches Desi in the database, and he finds out she has been an informant to the DEA. And the reason is because she had an ex-boyfriend who was in the cartel. She hated him. Something went down between them, so she ratted him out. When JD walks in, Dane shows him her details. JD feels like she is the one who sent in the Crime Stoppers tip. And if that's the case, she will be owed 20% of the money. Then the phone rang, and the person says they had 30 minutes to get up out that house and that no one needed to be on the line for $150K. When JD hangs up, he tells Dane, hey, let me holler at you over here for a minute. And he was like, you said it was $300K, but the person on the phone says it's $150K. So JD wants to know, why has Dane been lying? You haven't been yourself lately. What's going on? So JD tells Dane that he better call the major or he will. Now Desi, she's sitting in the kitchen. She listening to all of this. JD goes outside. He calls Mateo and tells him about the situation and that he's got his side eye on Dane. Mateo says, well, what if Captain Jackie had intel on that stash house? Dane found out. He was like, I don't know about that. But Mateo's like, hey, there could be a price to take out a police captain. But JD, that's his boy, so he don't feel like Dane would do something like that. But Mateo reminds him of all the things Dane has gone through lately. Mateo said he could be at the location in half an hour. So next we see Dane go into the garage where the ladies are, and he tells them that he knows everybody wants a piece of the pie, and so does he. Then outside, Mike sees these outside lights come on the home simultaneously, and one of the houses seem to be sending a signal. So JD walks up and Mike tells him about what he saw. This time JD sees it and he realizes that the code spells out pigs. So he goes to check it out. Mike goes back in the house, but on his way in he receives a text that says, "We'll move in when it's real. Team assembling." So Dane walks past Desi while he's on the phone, and she hears him tell somebody that the amount they found was about $150K. Then he heads outside. As he was going outside, Mike was coming in, and Desi tells Mike what she heard Dane say on the phone. She told him that they said they were going to take the money, and that Dane called the major and said that it was only $150K. As they were talking, Dane walks back in, and he wanted to know why wasn't Mike outside and what y'all talking about. Mike said he was just there to let him know about the Morse code. So Dane says, "All right, show me." So they head back outside, but now Dane giving Mike a real hard side eye, right? While the ladies are bagging the money, the phone rings, and this time the person tells them that they need to get up out of that house in the next 10 minutes or bodies gonna start dropping. So Dane wanted to know what were Mike and Desi talking about, and Mike said that, hey, she just freaking out. That's all she was saying. So he shows Dane the house that sent the Morse code. Dane wasn't saying anything, so when Mike turned around, he asked him if he was a rat. Mike started laughing like, "Are you serious?" But Dane, he really was serious. So without answering his question, Dane tells him to head back to the house. On his way back, he pulled that phone back out and sent a voicemail to somebody letting them know that the team was about to take the rip, so he told the person that they better move quickly. Over at the house that JD went to scope out, he got a text message that said, "No Crime Stopper tip was called in. The evidence, Sarge has no record. Told you, watch your back." As JD continued to walk through the house, you can see a shadow behind him of a person pointing a strap at him. When Mike makes it back to the house, he tells Desi that nothing is going to happen to her, and then he proceeds to go to the garage, but the door has been zip tied shut. Lolo opened it and tells him the reason it was locked is because they can't keep getting interrupted while trying to count this money. Folks can't keep going in and out, and can't nobody leave. That threw Mike off because who are you talking about? What folks? It's only us. So Dane, he made it back, but Mike noticed that JD wasn't with him, but that's who you went to find out what was going on. So he asked them, and Dane said that they got separated. Then right after that, the house goes pitch black. You see green light shining in, and the place was lit up. So once the firing slows up a bit, Mike and Dane go outside and they see somebody running, so they take off after him. Whoever it was cut through a house, which was almost like a trap, because as soon as they entered, folks just started blasting. They were able to keep chasing after whoever it was, but eventually that person got away because there was a car waiting for them. Then they see this guy running towards them, and he was trying to explain something, but Mike and Dane was about to take him out. Then JD comes out of nowhere talking about, wait, he's not the dude. This old boy from the house who was sending out the signals, he's a part of the cartel, but not the ones who unloaded on us. So dude gets on the phone with his boss, and the man says, "I don't know who just came after y'all, but it wasn't none of my people. We don't even want that money." He said that after y'all captain got unalive, that hurt what we got going on over here. So they weren't trying to add to that. Dane and JD, they go back to the garage. He lets the ladies know that it wasn't the cartel. So Numa is like, so if no one has dibs on this money, that means it's free, right? So JD was curious to know, y'all want to steal the money? And Lolo was like, you just don't know how much I have to pay in child support. So yeah, I take it. Then he says that there wasn't a Crime Stoppers report because Dane made it all up, because he wants to steal the rip, and that Jackie knew all about it. Then JD and Dane, they start pointing fingers at each other, going back and forth. Things get a little heated. JD jumped on Dane. Everybody get up, they break it up. JD leaves. Dane tells everybody else to finish counting the money so they can get up out of there. Mike goes to the bathroom to text whoever he's been texting, but he lost his phone. So he don't know if he lost it running in the middle of the fight. He don't know where the phone is. So JD calls Mateo to see how far away he was. He said that he should be there in about a minute, but he didn't have his whole team with him because most of them were ready to just call it a night. So over in the garage, they finish counting the money. Dane writes the amount on a piece of paper. He holds it up to the ladies to memorize it, but they don't speak the amount. They just memorize it. They were trying to figure out how they were going to leave with the money since all of their cars were destroyed by the hit. The only car available was the station wagon, so Dane said that he'll ask Desi if it had any keys. Now, while they were trying to figure that out, to avoid being looked at as a snitch, Mike decided to set the garage on fire just in case that's where he dropped his phone. So he got some candles and placed them near the garage door until the flame caught onto the wood framing and started spreading. In a panic, the crew pulls all of the bags out on the front lawn. By the time they make it outside, Mateo pulls up, and Dane is surprised but kind of relieved because, now they got a way to move the money. So they put the money in the back of the armored truck. Dane tells Numa to stay with Lolo and Desi and to wait for the fire department to get there. Numa feels like what he's trying to do is run off with the money. She tries to argue with him, but Dane basically ignores her. Then JD walks up and him and Dane get into it again because Dane is mad that he called Mateo after he had to tell him several times, "This is my scene." So Mateo, he breaks it up and they get in the back of the truck. So Mike, JD, Dane, and Mateo, they're in the back of the armored truck. So once in the back, Dane and JD pull their straps out. So Mateo tells them where they were taking the money, and JD says that he was going to call the major to let him know what was up. But he was only doing that to mess with Dane because he knew Dane didn't really call the major. So Mike calls Dane out and says, "You didn't call him. And if the major did know about the rip, he don't know about the amount of money." Mike tells Dane what Desi told him about the phone call that she overheard Dane had with the major, and that he told the major that it was only $150K. And that's when Dane lets Mike know that he said exactly what he wanted Desi to hear, from the amount of money it was along with the plan to steal the money, which was fake. It was a fake plan, and the reason he did that was because for the most part Mike was always outside as the lookout, so he knew out of all of them Desi would trust Mike more. Then Dane points out that whoever made the phone call to the house told them that they needed to get out because no one needed to be on the line for $150K. He knew then that Mike had been talking to somebody because Dane had told everybody a different amount. And then JD pulls out the phone that he snatched off Mike when Mike was trying to break up the fight between JD and Dane. So Dane said that he's been lying the whole day, and that Mike wasn't a good liar. So when Dane went to the house where JD was, trying to see where the signals came from, he showed JD the text that was sent from Jackie, telling him about the stash house. JD wanted to know why didn't Dane just tell him that from the beginning instead of having him think that he was crooked. Dane said he had to do it that way until folks started to flush themselves out. So JD notices that they hadn't heard any sirens, seen no flashing lights, they don't hear no walkie-talkies, especially with them hauling so much money. So he asked Mateo about it. Mateo said that he wanted to keep everything low-key. Then Dane wanted to know who was driving the truck. If you said that your team wanted to call it a night, who driving? And since Mike sees that he's already caught, he asked JD for his phone and he dialed the person who he had already been talking to the whole night, and Mateo's phone rings. So Mateo pulls his piece and lets one off, and it ends up grazing Mike's ear. The driver stops to see what's happening. His partner slides open the bulkhead doors to see what's really going on. So then he pulls his strap, but before he was able to let one off, JD took him out. So Mateo was able to get the upper hand after that. And then he says that he and Mike were the ones who took out Captain Jackie. Well, it was actually Mateo who pulled the trigger. And he said he took her out because she knew about their plan to steal the money. As he was talking, JD's phone rang, and it was the major let him know that they were at the location waiting for them to drop off the stash. But as they were driving, they had to come to a halt because the FBI had created a barrier. So the driver was the same police officer that JD thought he knew. He got scared. He was like, "Man, I think it's over for us." So while they're talking, Mike was able to pull his ankle strap, hit Mateo in the chest of his bulletproof vest, and that sent him flying to the front. And Mike picked up another piece and let off a series of rounds as he grabbed the bag of the money and took off running. When he jumped out, Mateo put the truck in drive and took off. JD took his brother's SUV and went after Mateo while Dane ran after Mike. So Dane and Mike, they tussled for a minute. Mike finally gave up. Then Dane opened the bag to show Mike that you ain't even running off with no money. You running off with phone books. So he put him on the wrist. So Mateo, he ended up flipping the armored truck over an overpass. He crawls out of the car. JD showed up and say, hey, ask him questions. Why did you do this to Jackie? This, that, and the other. Mateo, he trying to work out a deal. JD showed him, bro, you ain't got nothing but some phone books. But as he's talking, Mateo thought that he was going to get one off on JD, but JD unalived him. So yeah, he went ahead and finished him off. Like, you over here talk crazy and you took out my girlfriend. Yeah, you got to go. So then we see the ladies driving the station wagon with the buckets of money. They took the money to the designated location. The major asked the ladies the amount. Dane gave him the card that he wrote the amount on, and everything matched. All $20,650,480 was all accounted for. So Desi got her 20%. After they wrapped up everything, Dane and JD were at the beach watching the sunrise as a memorial to Jackie, because that's what she loved to do. And there was a woman on the beach. She was playing with her dog, and her dog's name was Jackie. So they felt like there was a confirmation that they did the right thing and that Jackie was watching over them. And that was the end of the rip. Y'all get down in the comments. Let me know what you think if you watched it, and I'll talk to y'all later.